Your financial wellness in 2026 might come down to one of these 5 things that we're about to talk about in this upcoming episode. Let's jump in and see if it matters to you. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Dollars and Cents, Hapo Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. It's the end of the year, but you know what that means. It's the beginning of the next year. Right. And we're going to be talking today about a couple of items, maybe 5-ish things that you can do to set yourself up for financial success in 2026. With us today, Marcelo, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
So last time you were here, we were talking a lot about budgeting and different styles of budgeting and basically telling people, go find the one that fits your particular lifestyle, how you like to think of your finances. Today, we're going to be taking those same people and telling them to go back and recheck your budget, as you should be checking in with it regularly.
Right.
But do it with kind of an eye on some of these other items that we've got.
Yeah.
What type of items have you brought for us to talk to the people about today?
Yeah. So I think you hit the nail right on the head. Like moving forward into the new year, doing it with a little bit more intention. If you weren't already previously doing that, but with that being said, we have 5 basic practical tips that you could use to improve your financial wellness in 2026. In order, they actually are going to be doing a monthly money check-in.
Okay.
Number 2 is going to be setting up a simple savings system, automated savings. Third one will be to look at reducing your overall interest and costs. And then 4th would be to do a regular credit health check. So checking your credit score, looking at that. And then last but not least is going to be automate where you can.
Yeah, honestly, automation is one of my favorite things, being the other half of my job here, making sure that people get to do the most by doing the least.
Right.
And honestly, It makes a lot of sense with finances as well. It's a set it and forget it method. I never saw that money go into my checking account, and so I couldn't spend it before I had a chance to save it.
Right.
So with our monthly check-in, beginning of each month, and in fact, we're about to hit one of those beginning of the month as well as the beginning of the year. What should people be looking into as their previous month, previous year's finances to kind of help them set that foundation for the next month and potentially correct for some other things that they may not have wanted to do in the previous months?
Right. Well, I mean, ideally, you want to do it on a month-to-month basis. So if you've gotten this far, in the year, and you now want to go back and look at everything, of course, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But of course, when you're moving into the new year, when you're thinking about, how you want it to play out, looking at it on a monthly basis is going to help you, pivot where you need to, make adjustments where needed, of course, as well. So I think the main thing you want to look at, of course, as always, is going to be your income, and then your expenses, of course. Anything that may have surprised you as well is probably really helpful to look at, just to make sure that those same surprises, if you can prevent them, you're able to.
Yeah, kind of like taking a look at any project that you've worked on, go back and take a look at what went well, what did not go well, and what lessons you learned from your finances from the previous month, 2 months, whatever that may be.
Right.
So month to month, what are we looking at specifically that's really going to help us set ourselves up for financial success in those check-ins? Are we looking at the top items that we're spending on? Are we looking at what may have been unexpected that shouldn't have been unexpected? Where are we looking?
I mean, really, you want to look at, what did you have planned and how did it actually turn out? And so if you begin by looking at your top spending categories, that's going to be the majority of where your money went.
Okay.
And then looking at maybe just any expenses or anything that may have came up that you weren't necessarily intending to, to have. And so I think the thing is looking at those 2 things. And then, like I mentioned, any surprises, those 2 to 3 things would help you essentially stay on track. And if it's something where you are, spending too much on maybe entertainment, you're spending too much on, clothing items, whatever it may be, whatever that is for everyone, listening, is if you have the ability to see that in motion, exactly how to adjust. And so if you're overspending by X amount, like say I spent $100 more than I should have, especially in Christmas, on a specific person, right? Now you know exactly what you should do to prevent that from happening the next year. And so especially beginning of the year is a really good time. A lot of people don't necessarily want to think about that since the holidays had just ended, but it honestly is a really good time to begin thinking about that, and even just setting aside like a small percentage of your income towards that goal, essentially.
I was going to say, we did have that conversation with about budgeting for Christmas presents, being now is the time of year that you want to start that budgeting, setting a little bit aside each paycheck so that you've got a little bit of I wouldn't say an emergency savings, but a planned spending for the holidays when they come back around. So you're not kind of taken by surprise when you hand out a bunch of Halloween candy and all of a sudden tomorrow's Christmas, and you realize that all you're looking for is Amazon Prime deals so they get there in time.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I think one of the things that you mentioned kind of struck this with me. If you're checking in monthly on these categories, what you're planning versus what actually happened, you're not going to see a huge deviation from what you're attempting to do, unless, of course, there's some major awkward expense, like your car engine falls out while you're driving uphill or something, and you all of a sudden need to go buy a new car. Those type of things, that's the type of stuff that can happen. But like if you realize that you're going out to lunch more often, or even the same, and just price of lunch has gone up $5 a meal or something, being able to look at that and correct it slowly over time, as opposed to 6 months down the line being like, oh, well, I guess I don't get to go out and have lunch anymore.
Right. You don't have enough to eat anymore, right? Yeah, no, I definitely think that, the biggest thing with step number one is really just awareness, because I think for most people, where they get stuck is like just the fear of unknown. And so rather than having to deal with you have to know what you're working with in order to work with it efficiently, and so I think that's what a lot of people just either, you turn a blind eye to it, or they have the intention of doing these things, and then eventually they, fall off of doing it slowly. But it happens. I could say the same for myself. I think the thing is awareness is going to help you from having that financial stress, from having the anxiety. And although, income is a big aspect of it, it's not to say that you can't manage. It's just a matter of like figuring out exactly how you should manage.
Yeah, manage it, be intentional about it, follow through with it. Sometimes getting started is literally the hardest step.
Right. Kind
of like going to the gym, getting yourself a gym membership as we're coming into New Year's resolution time, and paying for it all year, but stopping going after February. I know I just got back from vacation, and getting back to the gym this morning was one of those moments where getting out of bed, I was just like, do I really want to? Like, yeah, I know I'm gonna hurt for this later today, but I'm gonna feel better for it in the long run. And just going through and doing the thing, budgeting, checking your finances, being intentional is kind of the same thing. You just
really, it is.
Be intentional about it. It's your finances. Like, go take a look at them, go own them. That's kind of why we talk about these things.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, there are unexpected expenses that come up. And so it's just a matter of like, figuring out how you can do it better the next month, and take it month by month, Well,
and I think that also gives you an opportunity to evaluate that emergency savings that should always exist in your budget. And after you've gotten that filled up to a point where you're comfortable with it, you change your budget around a little bit, so you're not just funneling money into this. Maybe now that you've used some of that because of an unexpected expense that comes up, you reevaluate your budget for the next couple of months to rebuild that over time. It kind of works into our next step, which is building that savings plan.
Yeah. And honestly, they all kind of work in tandem with each other. I think the step two, like you mentioned, is building up a savings plan. If you don't already have something set up for yourself, it's never too late to start. And for me, a majority of the time, like on a month-to-month basis, I typically stick with like the 50-30-20. 20% for savings might be a little too much for some people, and so starting with as low as like 5%, maybe 10% works for you. And so beginning that is just you will never regret beginning that savings plan, because that is just money that is just going to sit there as like a cushion essentially for yourself. And so when you need it, it's there. If you don't have it, then really you have nothing else to rely on. And so
yeah, and then again, if you're moving it into a savings account, you're not seeing it in your checking account. It's not something that you can just immediately swipe a debit card and spend, and it slowly builds up over time.
Right.
I know for me, I trick myself into savings by transferring money that is slightly more than my payments for like my car. So if my car is like $423 a month, as I throw random numbers out there, I'm going to transfer $450 into that account. And so $27 or so every month is just kind of getting added to this over time. And that's just one of those weird ways that we can trick ourselves in being like, nope, this auto payment is set up. It's happening. I don't have to look at it. Again, automation we'll get to in a little while, but that direct deposit, being able to just automatically pull that money off to the side so you're not tempted to go grab it.
Exactly. And you bring up a good point, because automating your savings is one thing, but you want to do it when like you just freshly got paid, you know? And so if your paycheck hits today and you know that it's on a biweekly basis, you may be setting it up like a couple days after that. So essentially you're still paying yourself first, right? Most people that, you know, are looking at saving, they kind of go about it in the wrong way, in my opinion. They save what is left over. And I think the thing is this, most of the times it's easy to see that there hardly is anything left over, you know? And so I think if you pay yourself first, it just, you relieve yourself of having to figure it out later.
Yeah, the stress of being like, but I have it right here and I really want that thing. And it's not there at the moment. I've got to actually go do an electronic transfer to move that money to a place where I can access it a little bit easier. Out of sight, out of mind is probably one of the best choices for most people. If it builds up on the side and you're just not paying attention to that account because it's at a different financial institution, or it's just one that you don't see regularly, and then you go check in on it like a couple months later, and you're like, oh, wow.
It feels really good.
Yeah.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I've been there, and you're right. Like, it's out of sight, out of mind, and then when you go to see it, you kind of pat yourself on the back, you know? Like, yeah.
And then, of course, if we're checking in monthly, we can adjust that strategy if we need to, again, to say rebuild that emergency savings account as opposed to our regular savings account, a long-term savings or something along those lines, where we can get that padding back, that comfort zone, to just make the year more consistent.
Exactly.
And I think the other part, like we've talked a lot about kind of emergencies, unexpected things, but the planned expenses as well.
Right, exactly. Like, you know, you have your car tabs, you know, you have maybe annual bills, subscriptions, things like that. So
yeah, items that you're not immediately thinking about. I know I just got an insurance payment that I had to make, and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. That's every 6 months. It's not something that I typically budget for on a month-to-month basis. I could break that cost down and set that money aside on a month-to-month basis so that my paychecks are moving around and putting the money where it's supposed to be to make that payment. But I don't think about it until I get the bill in the mail, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that comes up every 6 months.
Right, and that is a really good example, because you're right. For most people, they kind of don't essentially forget about it, but you don't think about it as much as other things, you know, like a cell phone bill or something like that. So
yeah, I also think an interesting one that kind of throws a wrench into some people's planning is utilities. I know that come this time of year, I am running through a lot more gas at my house, keeping the heaters running, than I am come winter, when it's a lot more electricity and water. Not winter, summer, for running the air conditioning and the sprinklers for the lawn. As those numbers fluctuate, it's kind of hard to take a look at things like that and budget a regular. Like, oh no, my utilities are going to be $100 this month because it's $100. No, it's never that.
Right. I mean, it'd be nice if it was a fixed amount, right? Yeah.
So checking in regularly, adjusting your savings, making sure that you've got a plan, a simple one. How do we go about protecting some of those? What's our next move?
So the next one actually is going to be reducing high interest costs.
Okay.
And just looking at your overall debt, and looking at paying off, you know, debt where you can. I think the thing with debt is, I mean, it's one thing to make a payment towards your debt, and you know that's a great, you know, habit to have is, you know, always having those payments made on time. Of course, you know, remaining under that 30% threshold, you know, all of that is they're basic habits that we should have. But I think the thing is sometimes we forget about kind of shopping around and looking at, you know, what are interest rates at now, what were they, you know, back when I got, you know, X credit card or whatever it may be, a car loan, whatever that is for you. I think the thing is we kind of get set in our ways, and we figure like this is my payment, I'm comfortable with it, I can make it, and so I'll leave it because it's manageable. So
yeah, and I know, like, let's go with a random scenario that has nothing to do with my actual life. On vacation, and you buy a timeshare. Been there, I've done that. Might have been last month. But we all know that like those type of sales moves, if you go into those things and you're going to use them, great, do your thing. I'm not here to say yes or no to timeshares or anything, right. But the interest rates on those loans tend to be in the teens, 15, 16% interest on a relatively large sum of money. And they want you to set up an auto payment, which is, we're going to talk about automating things, but at this point in time, it's like, no, just don't worry about it. Set up this auto payment. It'll take care of it every month for you. Don't look at the balance or how much interest you're going to be paying over the course of this loan. That's kind of one of those things with mortgages. Even with a nice low percentage on a mortgage, houses coming in at 6, 7, 8%, you're still, over the course of a 30-year loan, paying almost double on the value of that home that you purchased. So finding a moment to be able to refinance down and cut that can really create savings in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think the thing is interest eats away at a lot of the income that you are bringing in, and so anywhere that you can cut some of that interest back is going to save you, money that you can now use. It's freed up to use to begin to tackle something else. Maybe you have an emergency fund that you've been meaning to set up. Maybe you have, like a large balance on a credit card elsewhere, and you want to pay that down. And so the thing with reducing interest too is it's a good thing to have the intention of paying it off, but you also want to like choose a payoff method and kind of stick with it too. So whether that's like a snowball method or that's like an avalanche, it's whatever is going to work for you, but staying consistent with it, keeping up with it. Yeah.
Well, and there are some vehicles out there to help people reduce those. Refinancing, like with a car, you mentioned, like if you got a car at like a 9% interest rate, you can probably almost certainly go out and find a way to refinance that vehicle and bring that interest rate down, which will probably bring down your monthly payments, which again could then take that gap, that little bit of a difference. It goes from 423 to 370, and now all of a sudden I'm not changing what I'm putting into my savings account to pay that monthly, and now my $27 savings just jumped by another $50 or whatever the math is that I didn't do for the made up numbers. But also being able to take things like, we mentioned refinancing, which you could do with a car, with a home. But if you were to do a home equity loan, the odds of being able to get that at a lower rate than your current credit card is at is pretty high. And I think there's some other methods out there that people can look into to bring those interest rates down, consolidating your debt into one. I've done it with the equity in my home before, consolidated, I think 3 or 4 different outstanding debts that I had into one at a lower interest rate than all of the other ones were combined.
Right. And a lower monthly payment, right? A combined lower monthly payment. Yeah. That's the thing is debt consolidation is a really helpful tool. I think the thing is looking into like what your interest rates are. For example, credit cards are one of those things. If you have 5 different credit cards floating around 5 different institutions, you have a ballpark estimate of how much interest you're really paying or how much you think you're paying, but not necessarily exactly how much you are paying. And so it's as simple as like shopping around online and looking at rates there. The other thing is even coming into a HAPO and sitting down with, a financial service specialist and looking at how they can help you tackle some of the debt and maybe even like looking into like a balance transfer per se, like especially around this time of year. I know a lot of institutions have balance transfers going on and promotional rates that can help significantly reduce your interest rate. If you're up at like 18 to 20, 23%, getting that down to as low as like a 6%, like maybe even a 0%, anywhere underneath, the 10% range is going to help you significantly and help reduce that minimum balance a lot quicker than not. So,
and those promotional rates aren't forever. You're not getting a forever credit card at 6%.
Right.
But it's a long enough time where you can really help tackle that interest that you are accumulating over time. If you're not able to pay that off monthly, if you're using it to float some debt, you can really take a motion on that and bring that overall interest that you're going to be paying down. How long do those promotional rates typically last?
Honestly, anywhere from like 12 to like 15 months, 18 months, around there. Yeah, it kind of depends. But I know with HAPO, traditionally we have like at least 2 balance transfers in calendar year. And I think one that we have coming up is probably going to run, through March of 2027, somewhere around there.
A solid 15-ish months at a lower rate before everything jumps back up.
Right.
That should give you some breathing room to be able to get that paid off a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Even if you're making the same payment, you're making progress. Minimum payments, we're just going to suggest people, if that's what you can do, that's what you do. But if you can pay it off quicker, always try and do that.
Right. But, I mean, a good thing that you could do with the minimum payment is setting it up automated for minimum payment and then going in and applying additional payment to it. That's a really good strategy.
That way you're not missing payments and you're maintaining your credit score, your credit rating by making sure that you hit those. We learned talking, I believe it was with Todd, about the credit score mix that you're getting and how one of the major components involved in that is making your monthly payments like on time.
Right.
And that's it. Just literally having that automated payment is going to like bump your credit score up over the long run.
Right. And consistently doing that is going to help you a lot. And I think the thing is also the other thing that maybe our listeners know, maybe they aren't aware of, but a negative payment mark on your credit, I think it stays on there for like 7 years, if I'm not mistaken, which is a really long time, for that to be lingering around and damaging your credit health really at the end of the day. So
think of how many times you've not had an automated situation set up and you're like, oh, wait, that was yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, let me just make that payment real quick. Yeah. You've already missed it. So that's going to be on there. And hopefully you've got somebody looking at those things, that are saying like, it was 1 day late. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's not that bad. It's not like they just skipped it entirely.
Yeah.
But automations, which I think is pretty much still our next topic on this.
It's close to the next topic. The next one is monitoring just credit health. I mean, but they all kind of tie in together. And so with the credit health, you don't necessarily have to obsess over your credit score. It's not something you check daily, like a balance. Like I tend to check my balance at least every day, every other day. And with a credit score, you want to be on top of it. You want to know exactly, where you're at credit wise. But it's not something that you should really obsess over on a week, not even a weekly basis. I think typically on a monthly basis, your credit score might increase a couple points, might decrease a couple points. I guess it depends on everyone's unique situation, but just maintaining like that, making sure you go in and check your credit health. I mean, we have Savvy Money. It's completely free to our members. There's a ton of other, free software out there that you can use to check your credit without a ding to your inquiries and anything like that. So.
Well, and I also know that Savvy sends a regular email. I think it's on a monthly basis.
It is. Yeah.
It's like, hey, your credit score jumped up, or it did X, Y, or Z, or take a look at these things, and it'll give you a good prompt to be able to just go in, take a quick look at what's happened.
Right.
It's also a great fraud prevention tool if you are checking your credit score regularly. Because, oh, wait, I didn't apply for that credit card. Why is that on my credit statement here? Why did that drop a couple points because somebody made an inquiry under my name, even though it wasn't me?
Right. No, you're completely right. Yeah. Credit health, I mean, is one of the biggest things that's going to help you in terms of like, achieving financial like wellness is one of the biggest aspects to it is really credit. And it's not necessarily about like status. I think it's more of just like access to more flexible financing in general. When it comes to credit, if you have a great score, I'm sure everyone knows you can get a lot better rates. You can get, better financing options versus having a pretty low score. Is of course you might not necessarily have as many options available to you. So
I know with auto loans, like there's almost always like a 1% jump as you go between the different categories. So where somebody might be able to go get that car loan at say 4.5%, somebody else going to buy that exact same car with a worse credit score might be looking at something like an 8% loan just because of that difference. And it's something that is as simple as I got my card, I bought a pack of gum, and I paid that card off immediately, and I don't use the card for anything else. And now I'm building my credit score with just that thing. Being able to make those regular payments, being able to work your debt balance, which we're aiming for, I believe it's like 30%.
In terms of like usage, 30% or less than 30% really at the end of the day.
anything up and above that starts to get looked at a little bit more negatively in your credit
Yeah.
scores. Paying things off regularly, though, still the number one factor as far as that goes.
Right. Payment history
yeah,
is definitely at the
and
top.
being able to go in and take a look at those things, balance those out, you're gonna get better interest rates, and that's gonna save you on our high interest debt that we're building up, which was our point number 3. Get those down. So credit score monitoring is a fantastic tool that people should be utilizing.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Moving on to step 5. So the final step that we have here, which really ties everything together, is automation.
Yeah.
And really automation can kind of be applied to almost every aspect of your financial life. Automating, whether that's automating your savings, automatic savings, transferring money out of, your checking account to a specific savings account that you can't necessarily touch quite easily. Whether that is, automating your payments, like you said, so that you stay on top of your payment history, credit health is good there. And then as well as like automating alerts and notifications, such as like a low balance, or even like a high dollar amount, like transaction. Things like that can help you if you want to stay aware of everything that's going on, really.
I was going to say, it's never a bad idea to have an idea of what's happening. Like if all of a sudden a transaction pings because I said anything over $500 and I haven't bought something, I've got one person that I can reach out to be like, honey, what did you do? Or was that not you? And again, you're protecting yourself from fraud.
Yeah.
You're protecting yourself from maybe overspending on random things because, again, that low balance alert, all of a sudden be like, wait, why is my balance that low?
Right.
What automatic payment just hit my account?
Right.
Because I've had that one happen when my mortgage got pulled once or twice and be like, oh, whoa, that got really low there for a hot second. Time to jump into the online banking tools and kind of shuffle some things around just to make sure that we're not overdrafting anything. Because again, avoiding those type of fees, you're just saving yourself a little bit of a headache and some cash by not overdrafting with those alerts set up.
Exactly. Yep. Honestly, I think the thing is with automation is you don't necessarily have to think about it for really more than once. And so it's similar to, setting up automatic savings in general. It's like you set it up once and you kind of let it run its course. And so if you need to make adjustments, those don't happen too often. And so it's just as simple as go in there and do that. But really, once you have it set up the one time, you can kind of just let it do its thing,
Yeah. And I would say that one of the bigger automations that people kind of overlook, they'll utilize monthly transfers and whatnot, but one that people, I think, overlook a lot is your direct deposit itself. Setting up your direct deposit, and I believe using percentages is a fantastic way to do it. Be like, okay, if I take 10% of my check and I move it into this account here, I'm now automatically saving 10%. But it's not a flat number because when I get a raise, that percentage is going to stay the same, but the dollar amount's going to go up.
Yeah.
And so over time, being able to do that, I did that, funny enough, once with my car payment as a percentage, and I just never touched it. So my car, now that it's completely paid off, I could go adjust that again and move that money somewhere else, but now it just all goes and sits in that savings account.
Right.
So when I need to buy a new car, I'll just have some money sitting around.
Right, exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, no, that really is. I think the other thing also is scheduling like your debt payments. If you have a specific, like you have the 15 months, right, for the promo rate. If you want to make sure that you pay that balance off, making sure that you're making an appropriate payment on a monthly basis so that you can reach your goal, right? And so so that's another huge factor that can help you when it comes to automating just every aspect of.
And I know that like this time of year for me is an expensive couple of months that are coming up with just once a year type of payments that come around. And so planning ahead for some of those things, being able to be like, okay, this is going to be an expensive month. I wish I would have planned ahead. Getting back to kind of the original idea of planning and adjusting as you go downstream. knowing that I'm going to have some stuff to shuffle around next month, I think it is. And just coming up with a plan for the year and adjusting as you go.
Right.
The automations can really help with that. Like I said, like that car payment that just goes off into an account, I'm absolutely going to be going in there and grabbing some of that for these big expenses that are coming up in the next couple of months. Right. But I know I've got that over on the side that's building up. So it gives me that knowledge that it's going to get used somewhere. Little bit of peace of mind as we kind of plan those things out. Because the other half of this is that we all know a plan is just a list of things that don't happen anyways. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't have one.
Right. No, I think the thing is also like one takeaway would be to have an intention is one thing, but if you don't have an actionable plan and you don't, hold yourself accountable, then really at the end of the day, you're kind of just back to square one. I think moving into 2026, it's going to be a reset for a lot of people. And that can be a good it could be a good or a bad thing. It just depends on how you approach it. And if you are accountable, if you hold yourself, responsible to these things, then you can make yourself have a good, rest of the year.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of things that people can plan for out there. Like if you have the idea coming up that you're going to be needing to replace a vehicle, if you know that coming up you're going to be having a big move. There's a lot of things that like life events that I think people can plan ahead for. And planning ahead obviously is what we're advocating for all of this. Make a budget, make a plan, do the things to help you get there to ease all that transition. Then, of course, like we talked about at the beginning, there are some things that you can't plan for, like a massive windstorm that tears all the shingles off of your roof. You have to $10,000 or $8,000 or whatever it happens to be to re-roof your house. And you can still plan for those type of things with emergency savings, with other things. Just basically being cautious and understanding that things are out there. And all of these items that we've talked about today can be utilized to help get you through the next year, the next 5 years, doing these things, making a plan, checking in on your plan, adjusting your plan, throwing that one away and making a new plan, whatever it is that you've got to do. Being intentional about it, I think, comes down to one of the main factors.
Right, exactly. No, I think you've got it right. Really, the only other thing that I have to say is just even listening through these, steps. Maybe not all of them pertain to you, but maybe you've tried all of them, and you know that some of them work for you, some of them don't. Maybe you haven't tried any of these, and so it's just a matter of picking one. Maybe the one that you think will help reduce your stress the most, and in trying it out and seeing how that goes for you, and then adjusting accordingly.
And then in a couple of months, add another one.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Or see how that one's worked out for you, adjust as you go. I think for a lot of people that will be a big factor. I think the intentionality, just checking in monthly, that first item I think is going to be the big one. I'm going to work on that one, I believe, this year. Focusing in regularly on how did things go this month and what does next month have in store. Keep kind of a short scope. Yeah,
that's a good plan. And I think that's probably honestly why we set it as step number one. I think it's the easiest to kind of begin with. It's the lowest effort habit that you can build. And so
and like honestly, I'm trying to think of when I want to do that. I might set a calendar reminder recurring for the first of each month. And then we'll see. Maybe we'll check in. We'll check in at the end of next year and see how I've done over the next year. And everybody else that they're listening can check in with us and see how they've managed to adjust themselves. If they've managed to get a little bit more of a firm handle on their finances for the year. Marcelo, thank you so much for joining us again. For everybody out there, this has been Dollars and Cents, Hapo Community Credit Union's Financial Literacy Podcast. Until next time.